¿Qué tal? Bienvenidos a su programa, a esta estación nueva no tan nueva, ¿verdad? Pero ya estamos regresando nuevamente con su programa Dos Fronteras, nuevamente aquí con Simon y nuestro queridísimo Jorge Braga. Yo soy Jorge Melchor y los saludo desde New Jersey y bueno, vamos a tener a un gran personaje de aquellos inicios de las peleas en México. Israel Girón, un gran peleador mexicano, 24 peleas, 5 de ellas perdidas, pero pues hablar de él tiene un gran historial, lo vamos a tener en unos momentos aquí, pero antes que nada, pues vamos a platicar un poquito, vamos a comentar sobre la pelea que se dio en Brasil con Silva, mi querido Jorge. ¿Qué pasó ahí? Vamos a ver qué es lo que podemos analizar un poquito, cuál fue la situación que se dio. Y bueno, te escuchamos.
Perfecto, claro que sí, aquí la vamos a presentar. A ver, deme chancecito, aquí viene. A ver.
Algo terrible, ¿no? Algo que no se debe dar en el deporte, ¿no? Es
vergonzoso.
Vergonzoso, ¿no? De señalarlo y bueno, obviamente inició la pelea con, pues, tratando de golpear a su oponente con la cabeza constantemente hasta que, pues de alguna forma, ahí lo vemos constantemente él golpeaba a su oponente con la cabeza, pararon la pelea y al final lo descalificaron y en momentos ya casi difíciles vemos ahí que se arma la trifulca y pues lamentablemente Silva cae noqueado por un golpe pues fulminante al ojo. So what do you think, Simon? Is this terrible? We see that fight in Brazil, and you know Silva was fighting dirty, hitting his opponent constantly in the head, and you know he gets disqualified. And moments later, you know he gets knocked out by this tremendous, punch in the face that almost. He almost probably lost his eye. It was terrible, my friend. What do you think, Simon? Is something that we have in the sport, but it happens.
Headbutt with the crown of the head straight to the jaw in a clinch. I think that's the most obvious disqualification I've ever seen. But the afters didn't look great, did they? It's
it was terrible. Is something that doesn't supposed to happen, but it happens.
It's surprising how infrequently I think it does happen when you've got these big camps, not just full of people in pretty dirty fights like this, but full of people who can fight themselves, you know. And when they all flood the ring at the end and get angry with each other, it's not a good place to be, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. Also, I want to point a little bit, that transition that the UFC fighters think that they can box to, with real boxers, that they've been boxing for years and they have they are very prepared, they're very knowledgeable in the standoff. It's really hard to match, a real boxer with a UFC fighter, and we see the consequences here when a real fight it really happens. It was not much for an opponent Silva for this guy, and that.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of people get carried away by, they'll have success in MMA, and they'll decide that that's going to translate into other styles as well, and it doesn't always.
Yeah, it's difficult, but. Anyway, that's terrible, and I think we are having here our friend, pues Israel Girón está tratando de conectarse, lo estamos viendo ahí. Perfectamente. Israel, ¿cómo estás? ¿Nos escuchas? Ya tiene problemas con el audio un poquito, mi querido Jorge, ¿cómo lo ves?
Pues ya, qué bueno que se conectó. A ver si nos escucha nuestro queridísimo Rojo. Sí, nos está escuchando, sí.
Escuchando, sí. Lo podemos escuchar, ya puedo. ¿Tienes bien el audio por ahí?
Perfectamente, vamos adelante, mi queridísimo Israel. Saluda a toda la comunidad, por favor.
No te escuchamos. Tenemos un problema ahí con el audio.
Con su audio. Él sí nos escucha, pero su audio.
Su audio es el problema.
Su micrófono.
Ahí está entrando el audio un poquito. Bueno, vamos a esperar, pero what do you think, Simon? We have Israel Girón. He's one of the first fighters in Mexico, very charismatic. And, actually, Israel has one fleet that probably he began with this move and everyone else tried to imitate him a long time ago. Basically, he would just climb all the way to the cage and then, after his...
I was watching his fight reels and watching that backflip off the top rail. And I don't know if you saw the officials after the first time he did that. I think that was in the fight against Bo King back in maybe 2008, 2009.
Exactly.
Are we insured for this guy falling over? But it's he also did a standing flip at the end of that fight. So it's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, and he's gonna tell us basically to the audience how he can do that flip, because he has something there that people doesn't really know exactly, but he's gonna explain it and where he learned to do that. And he's just trying to, actually he's fighting with the audio right now, I think, Jorge, ¿no? ¿Nos está escuchando ya, Israel? Estamos por aquí, pero no lo escuchamos.
Su micrófono, a ver.
Mándale un mensaje, Jorgito, a ver qué pasa.
Sí,
ahí.
yo tengo su micrófono, se ve bien, veo que está bien, pero no está entrando el audio. A lo mejor es la conexión o su, ¿cómo se llama? La conexión en su laptop o en su... está fallando.
En su programa o su computadora, me imagino, ¿no?
Así es.
24 fights, Simon. He has a good record in Bellator, and he's, one of the most charismatic fighters back in the day. You can see his fights, and especially when he was facing the American side fighters. He was fascinating. So because all the Mexican, all the crowds in Mexico were.
Ahora creo que sí.
¿Ahí me escuchan ahora sí?
Perfectamente, ahora sí.
Vamos a darle la bienvenida aquí a Israel Girón, que ya está con nosotros. Arregló su problema de audio. No sé qué estaría pasando ahí. Parece que cambiaste al modo telefónico.
Sí, más bien la laptop no estaba respondiendo, aunque me decía que estaba el micrófono activo, no me escuchaban.
Pues muchísimas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros, aquí en Dos Fronteras, con nuestro gran amigo Jorge Braga, Simon, y su queridísimo representante de todo este show, Jorge Melchor. Y bueno, estamos con nuestro queridísimo amigo Israel Girón, el gran Rojo. Pues,
es correcto.
Hablar de ti es hablar de la historia del inicio de las artes casi marciales ahí, o de los primeros peleadores en la Ciudad de México, y obviamente pues tú fuiste el símbolo de esos inicios. Bueno, habían otros más, pero en la Ciudad de México tú fuiste el que tuvo más carisma, 24 peleas, 5 perdidas, un gran historial, mi querido Israel, ¿no?
Sí, es correcto, y todo fue por una casualidad del destino, porque, como mencionaban los backflips de mis peleas, yo realmente empecé entrenando clavados. Yo entrené clavados de los 9 años a los 15, y luego a los 18 entré a un parque de diversiones con lobos marinos y delfines, y ahí hacía exhibiciones de clavados de 21 metros de altura.
Ahí está la respuesta para todos que querían entender el por qué él celebraba de esa forma, mi querido Jorge Braga. ¿Cómo lo entiendes? ¿Cómo lo ves ahora?
Bueno, pues que es que mi queridísimo Rojo era famosísimo por eso. Yo vi muchos de sus clavados y creo que no 21 metros, creo que hay una que se echó en Europa, en no sé qué lugar. Hijos, mano, eso es tener valor, la verdad, echarse esos clavados de tanta altura. Pero sí, efectivamente, famoso por esos clavados, ese espectáculo.
Ahí en las peleas en el centro. So, Simon, let's go to the point. Let's ask him some hard questions in English now, so that the people, in New Jersey and New York, they can get to know our first fighter, our first representative in Mexico. Well, not the first one, but the most charismatic one that we have from Mexico City. And I will let you know, Simon, that me and Rojo, we trained together back in the day. He was a white belt when he came to the Renzo Gracie Mexico City gym. And
it's funny. That's kind of what I wanted to ask you first about Israel. Is I've really been enjoying watching your fight reels back, and some amazing fights back at the end of the 2000s, and a lot of your style. There's a lot of really fundamental jiu-jitsu in there. I was watching a lot of the fights where, particularly the one with Cruz, with Hildren, even he knocked you off your feet, but you were straight down, straight past his guard, straight on top. I think Hildren, you actually submitted with an Americana. Was that the basis of your style? Is that where it started for you?
Yes, before to answer your question, let me tell you that George was my client in the academy in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, okay? So,
just to correct that is that I beat him like 120 million times, this guy, and he only got me once in his entire life. So just to let you know. I choked him like
10 times a week.
I took the back, I did everything to this guy, and he only choked me once.
Yeah, he was very nice, true, because he received the purple belt, and I say to him, "Hey, let me estrenar, ¿cómo dices estrenar? To make your first fight with me with the purple belt." So I choke him out like in 10 seconds.
Ándale.
So he said, let me try for the first time because he got his purple belt. Go ahead, Simon.
So let me tell you something. I begin my MMA career at the age of 31. So it was not an age to be a fighter, So as I told you, I was working in a diving show, in a dolphin show. So when I quit, when they finished the show, I was very sad. So I lost my stop in the bus. So I went to the next stop. So in that place, in a Metro Chapultepec, and in the end of the corridor to the entrance, there was some store. They sell natural products, and they have the videos from UFC #1. At that time, is a VHS videos cassette. So I start watching the fights, and I say, "Man, this is not a kickboxing. This is not a box, because they are still fighting in the ground." So the curiosity was on me. I bought the DVD. Then I was start buying on Amazon UFC 2, 3, and 4, and I decided to start training. So in the gym, when I was going to make a weightlifting, they have a kickboxing, and one day they put next we're gonna have a Vale Tudo fights. So I start training there, and in 1 month I was kicking the ass of everyone. So I asked for the instructor, "Hey, I want to have a fight," and he told me, "Hey, you're very good in the ground, but the fights starting on feet. You need to learn kickboxing." "Okay, teach me." So after 1 month, I have my first amateur fight, and I won in 1 minute and a half. I take this guy into the ground, mounted, armbar. So then I have a second fight, professional. I think at that time they paid me like $100 at the end of it. So I won the fight, but I finished with a lot of bruises in my face. It was a very tough fight. So at that moment, I decided to find an academy only dedicated to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then it was the beginning from the internet in Mexico. I found Jiu-Jitsu in Mexico, and I found Renzo Gracie in Mexico, in Polanco. No? So I go there. I ask the first lesson to know how is the process. And in the other school, I defeat everyone. In this academy, the level was so high that I never could be able to top anyone. I think in 1 month. But my level was growing very hard. And so when I have my next fight, I was in another level. So that's why I became a fighter, because if I should start it at this time, man, there are kids of 15 years that can kick your ass in the feet or in the ground. So that's why.
Oh, cool. But I think looking at your style in those days, you by the time you had some of those bigger fights in Bellator later on, there's something very modern about the style you developed, because you had that great fundamental jiu-jitsu, seeing you submit people with arm bars, with a couple of rear naked chokes. I mean, submitting, I think, Hildren with an Americana, which I don't think I've ever seen in mixed martial arts before, which is an amazing shoulder lock, by the way, on that video. But watching you, there's something of the very modern kind of almost Nurmagomedov ground and pound style, because you obviously built quite a lot of striking in to your game as well.
Yeah, well, it was all a process, because when all the people knows that I was a jiu-jitsu fighter, they started training wrestling in the order to avoid the takedowns, no? So in that moment, I was watching many fights of the Gracies, The Gracies were very successful at the beginning, but when everybody was stopping the takedowns, they started having troubles with the kick, with the punching. So at that moment, I decided I need to dedicate more time in the kickboxing and the box, because I knew that in some fight, I was not going to be able to take my opponent to the ground. That's what happened in my last fight in Bellator. I know the other guy was from a wrestling background, so he said, okay, I know I'm going to lose in jiu-jitsu, so he tried to keep all the fight ascending. So for that last fight in Bellator, I trained, I think, 90% kickboxing and Muay Thai and box, because I know if I was not able to take the fight to the ground, I had the tools to defend myself in the striking.
Yeah, he was very versatile, and I think the athleticism that he possessed in a way that he can move, it was easy for him to adjust it from one discipline to another one really quickly, that he advanced a little bit better than some other fighters back in the day, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why he becomes really versatile in those disciplines. But he was great. So 24 fights that he has in his belt is pretty amazing. And so that you can see the whole jiu-jitsu develop that he possessed there. It was because of me, Simon, because I see this guy every day. No, but he's fascinated. But let me ask, and I'm going to switch a little bit to Spanish, because I want to ask him, ¿cuál de esas peleas, mi estimado Israel, fue la más significó más para ti de todas esas peleas que tuviste? Y fue la primera, ya, me imagino, o tal vez la última, cuando te despediste de los encordados. Pues, ¿cuál de ellas recuerdas más en esos aspectos?
Mira, yo creo que fue como la sexta pelea. Fue una pelea pactada en la Arena Monterrey. Tú recordarás a uno que trabajaba en los strippers, que era Meyer, ¿te acuerdas?
Mayer, sí, Mayer, sí.
Él organizó un evento en la Arena Monterrey y a mí me hablaron para pelear por ahí de mitad de la cartelera. Y cuando ya llegamos a Monterrey, en esa ocasión fue René Diosdado, fui yo, y como coach fue Raúl Romero.
Exacto.
El peleador contra el que yo iba a pelear no llegó porque tuvo algunos problemas de pasaporte, fue lo que nos comentaron. Y al final de cuentas a mí me pusieron en la pelea coestelar contra un chico que había peleado ya en la UFC, contra Gleison Tibau y contra Roger Huerta. Las dos las peleó, las dos las perdió, pero se fue a la decisión. Entonces, yo ahí sabía que no iba a ser el favorito, pero decidí tomar la pelea al final porque yo sabía que si hacía un buen papel o si podía ganarle, estaba listo o tenía un nivel contra alguien que era, pues, nivel de UFC, ¿no? Entonces, esa pelea en el primer round, gano el primer round contra todos los pronósticos. En el segundo round, intento un derribe, él me cacha en una guillotina y yo todavía lo levanté, lo llevé contra el piso, pero él no soltó la guillotina y fue mi primer derrota por sumisión. Y al final él vino conmigo y me dijo que pues que no esperaba que fuera una pelea tan difícil para él, ¿no?
Claro.
Entonces, eso a mí me motivó mucho porque sabía que tenía un nivel pues más adelantado que la mayoría de los peleadores que en ese momento en México estaban creciendo. Ya después tomamos en cuenta que los peleadores también más avanzados eran los que estaban en Tijuana, porque ellos
Exacto.
tenían la oportunidad de ir o de cruzar.
De cruzar.
De
Y en
cruzar esa frontera.
entonces estaba, lo acabas de mencionar también, ¿no? Estaba Yair Reyes y había otros, ¿no? Raúl Arbizu.
Estaba Jair Reyes, estaba el Tigre, estaba el Chango Morales, estaba Raúl Romero, que fuimos de los primeros que entramos a Bellator. Otro que se llama Jorge Ortiz, que vive en Chihuahua, homónimo del artista. También muy buen peleador. Fueron de los primeros que empezamos en Bellator.
Bueno, y esta pelea que tuviste con él, porque, bueno, no era un peleador cualquiera, ¿no? Porque creo que fue campeón después del...
Se llama Jason Dent.
Sí, fue un gran peleador también, ¿no? Y tuvo
sí.
fuerte, creo un moreno, ¿no?
No, él era blanco, delgado también.
Blanco, pero bueno, fuerte y no recuerdo muy bien, pero él avanzó muchísimo en el UFC y bueno, fue una pérdida, pero ¿qué aprendiste de esa pelea después? ¿Qué es lo que tuviste que ajustar en tu preparación?
Pues mira, básicamente lo que aprendes ahí es que no son superhombres, que tienen 2 brazos, 2 piernas igual que tú y que también son susceptibles a recibir castigo, ¿no?
Claro.
Porque muchas veces, cuando tú ya los ves en unos escenarios tan grandes como era UFC y después en Bellator, piensas que son superatletas, superhombres, que son más fuertes, más rápidos. Pero en ese momento, pues ya empiezas a darte cuenta que con una buena preparación tienes también la oportunidad de derrotarlos, ¿no? O dar una buena pelea.
Claro. So he's talking about like one of the fights, the 6th fight that he has, Simon.
Yeah.
It was really difficult for him because, you know, he wasn't prepared. It was an event that he's supposed to face someone else. And at the end, he faced this guy who was really good and he lost the fight. And, you know, the question that I asked, you know, which one of those fights he remembers more and why? And he's explained one of the reasons, no? Back in the day, you know, there were a few fighters in Mexico. Most of them were based in Tijuana, Mexico, which is very close to the border. And those guys in the border, they have more access to back and forth and train with, you know, just some other guys in the States. And, you know, Israel coming from Mexico City was a little bit difficult to travel from Mexico City to Tijuana back in the day. So, you know, everyone thought like, you know, the Americans are more prepared than us. It's very difficult. But what he says, something true is that, you know, once he faced the guys, he thought like, oh, those guys are not really what they say. You know, I can beat them. And that's what he thinks, like, you know, that fight really reflect on him. And he thought like, you know, this is something that I can use to prepare myself more and continue fighting. So
another thing, George, is that fight at that time was a very big venue in the Arena Monterrey, you know?
Yeah.
Because normally you used to have fights in a small venue, but this is amazing when you go walking to the cage and you see the place. Man, it's amazing. There was not much people, but you know, the venue is like being in Vegas or something like this.
It was great. And then once you go in your career, you know, you're going up and start training more and start facing some other fighters. So, you know, like what made you really popular, it was your backflip, you know, after you winning. And that really also people connect with you a lot. And talk a little bit about that connection that you really got with the Mexican people when actually it was just like the rivalry between you and the Americans. That's when, you know, it was more like a person, the energy in the cage, right? Everyone were like cheering you, like, yeah, you know, Rojo every time. And so how was it for you to feel that energy there?
Yeah, you know, it was something that was very important because the first time I fought against a North American was in Aguascalientes Feria, you know? So it was in the Palenque. And for me, because I was training diving and then I I was a little ashamed because I was very skinny. I started making weightlifting. So I think I have a very strange body. So when I fought with the other guys, and I see the guys is skinny or or fat, it's a very good for you because you feel very confident to the fight. But the first time I fought against an American, and when he take off the shirt for speaking the camera, and I represent USA, my background is this and that, and he say, I came here to kick some ass, and I was in front of him. And oh, what the fuck? So you know you don't have any kind of rivalry because you don't know the guy, no? And he don't say any bad of you or your family or whatever, but he's training to keep you out. So he was very strong, man. So on the day of the fight, you are waiting in outside the ring, and you are watching the fight before of you, and I was very scared, man. I think it was the first time I feel scared. As man, what I'm doing here? I should be in my home watching a TV or a movie. No, man. And one of the fighters from Tijuana, Pedro Pedro Pitbull, came to me and slapped me in the chest. Hey, come on! I know you're afraid, but look at him. He's very afraid also. So the important thing here is who goes up into the ring with more courage, and also the people is going to support you. And then I say, oh, he has a reason. Okay, so it was a moment when they call you to fight, and in the first round, the guy kicked my ass, and I came back from the second round, and the third round, I was very confident, so I won the fight. So I begin losing because he punched me, he knocked me down, and I spent most of the round on my back. But when I finish, it's like how I do to celebrate. So I run into the ring, go to the third, and make the back flick. That's how it's the beginning of that.
And that was the free warning for El Rojo. That's how they call it, Simon.
Yeah,
so that's a great story. It's fascinating. Like
I think your successors need to be quite careful attempting to replicate it if they're not as good at diving and somersaults as you.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Was that the fight with Philip Brown?
No, it was the fight. I don't remember the guy, but it was a fight in Aguascalientes. I don't remember. I don't have my record here, but it was good. So when I fought against Philip Brown, it was a little complicated because I used to jump my flick back from the ring. So when I fought in a cage, it's bigger, it's like 2 meters. So man, I said, okay, I need to do it, but if I fall on my back or wrong, I'm gonna be famous only for the funny jump instead for the fighting. So it was good.
It was a good landing though.
Yeah, it was a good landing. Yes.
I think you talk about that energy you get from fights. You obviously got a lot of energy from the crowd in that fight, but you spent quite a bit of that bout with him in your guard on your back. You never seemed to be panicking or worried. You always seemed very calm and very collected in the ring. Could you talk a bit about that? Because you're obviously fired up, energized by the crowd, but you're obvious. You were calm. You were looking for locks. You were breathing. How do you marry those two things together in the ring?
This is one of the things that you learn watching videos. I remember when I watched the fights from BJ Penn. This guy was very good at striking, and sometimes BJ Penn finished on the bottom. And when you see his face, he was looked like he was in a movie. Was very calm. He was not nervous because he knew that need to keep your energy for a good moment to escape. So there are also many fighters that you learn how they fight when they are in a bad position. No, okay, if you're going to try to escape very hard, you're gonna be gassed out and you're gonna lose the fight. So
Yeah.
many times when I was in a bad position, I tried to be calm, wait for the right moment to escape, in order to do it well on the first option.
That's something really, back in the day he didn't have that knowledge, like like the Ton Ortiz fighters now, that they trying to act to the fighters, like the that sort of philosophy, also like how they can control the anger and everything. Rojo didn't have that benefit back in the day. They didn't have that sort of information. So as a fighter, you have to go with the flow or figure it out by you going, either winning or losing. It was a different story back in the day, because they didn't have, especially Mexico, because the resources were not there, and that's kind of actually my next question. So Rojo, so what do you think? Like back in the day, you didn't have enough support, you didn't have enough money, like they do now to the fighters. But it is that you continue fighting. You love the attention of the people. You love that. But would you be thinking that you have those resources, money and therapy or psychological motivation to continue the fight, to prepare for the fight, you will be a different fighter?
Well, there are two things, two answers. First, with the economic thing, I finished my career as a system engineer. So I began at the age of 31. So I was having a very good salary working in a company in the computing system. I think it was one of the best salaries that I have, because the career is complicated for years. So at that time, I has no problem with the money. I was doing good. So I take the fights not for the money. I take the fights because I want to do something. And also, when I was a kid, my dream was to go into the Olympic Games as a diver. So in Mexico, you don't have very support from sports. So I had to quit at the age of 15. So broke my dream to continue to the Olympic Games. So when I had this opportunity to fight, I really believe that it was like retake the dream of the being good in a sport. To have the cameras, to have the attention of people, being good in the thing you're doing. So at that moment, I think that also for the diving, the adrenaline I believe that I have a very good ¿cómo poder decir manejar la adrenalina?
To self-control.
To self-control with the adrenaline, because the dives, because when you are in a 21 or 25 platform and you are with the dive, man, you cannot fail. If you fail, there's no second chance. And in the fight, I always be thinking, man, if this guy punched me, I have the chance to return the punch or kick or whatever. So from the money, it was not my interest. It was most for the being famous in the sport that I was doing.
Oh, cool. So you didn't think that you have like these resources from exactly what the new generations have, like they have all of this information, they have all of these seconds and people around them helping out, because we hear from some other fighters, new fighters that are coming up, they say that they have to go through this sort of like a prepare for relaxation and concentration to be able to control their anger or the moments that they get difficult in the fight. But anyway, I think it's a good thing then, so diving pretty much give you all those tools to really manage that sort of self-control that you show in your fights. I guess that's pretty cool, don't you think, Simon?
Yeah. Presumably, some of the physical development, the athleticism, the gymnastic ability, that gave you a good base as well.
Yeah, I think yeah, because with the diving, you have very good intelligence developing for the space and time, you know. So when you're fighting in the jiu-jitsu, the same thing. You're on your back, you can roll, or the movement you can do in jiu-jitsu is very similar to the flips in the diving.
There you go.
You know where you are spatially relative to your opponent, right? Like being in a tumble.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool because, you know, most of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, they thought that, you know, they have to sort of like control the breathing. But this is very interesting, you know, like diving pretty much keep that sort of like breathing in terms of calm himself down in difficult situations, Simon. So, you know, it's not always, you know, to follow the book. I guess this is something really cool. Like, I think it makes sense. You know, you are 20 feet in a high pole to be able to jump from there to see the tiny, you know, pool there. You have to be able to control yourself. Otherwise, as he says, you know, you can fail and it can be catastrophic, I guess. But you know, it's man, I think Israel. I think you write a book about that. It would be something that could be helping the new generations, right? Especially the ones that they don't have enough resources. I think you know, that sort of mentality can help those new fighters. What do you think, Simon?
Yeah, no, I was really interested. I guess you know, with the kind of high achieving sporting background you had in diving, and being able to translate that into something that has some similar aspects, but you know, is a very different sport. Is that? Yeah. Do you think you'd do that again if you know, if you had your career coming up as a 29-year-old, 30-year-old thinking about getting into professional fighting, professional mixed martial arts now? Would you? Is that something you go into again? Do you think? I mean, there's obviously more rewards in it now. There's more structure there. Is it a decision you think you'd repeat?
Well, I don't know. I don't understand very good your question, but it's if I had the chance to do it again in the being younger.
Yeah, if you were, I mean, if you were 30 today and you were starting fighting again, would you still go into mixed martial arts now?
No way. Okay. No, because you know, right now there is a lot of information about jiu-jitsu. At that time when I began, so our professor Mario Delgado was one of the guys with a lot of money who has the chance to travel New York and train with Renzo Gracie, to travel Rio de Janeiro and train with Gracie Barra. So he bought a lot of videos, and he was with the newest information about jiu-jitsu. He was teaching us, you know. Yeah. So also, for example, George can tell you, our team was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu team. We have no fighters. So I train only jiu-jitsu in Renzo Gracie, and I go to other academies to train kickboxing or boxing with boxers, kickboxing only with kickboxers. So I don't have too much opportunity like the teams in Tijuana. They have a wrestler, they have a striker, they have everything, you know. Yeah. But in Renzo Gracie, Mexico, I was only me and another guys who wants to be fighters. So he looked at me as a pioneer of the fight, but they don't have the enough experience to help me. There was only one fighter, Alfredo Tsunami. Alfredo was a very good fighter also, and I think he was one of the fighters that most helped me to the sparring.
Very, very young, athletic Mexican guy too, as well, that train in Renzo Gracie as well. So let me explain to you a little bit, Simon. You know, it's kind of weird, but it's kind of like at the beginning of the Gracies too, as well. Kind of like transition from the States to Mexico, and then all the way down. We say that like that. I don't want to be disrespectful for anyone else, but they have the different opinion on this. But the idea was that. You know, because we didn't have the internet or sharing, you know, techniques back in the day. You know, Mario Delgado, who actually was our teacher, and very close to Renzo Gracie, and still until today. Basically, he was going everywhere. He was going to New York to train with Renzo. He was going to Brazil. He was going to Europe, and he was a rich guy, but he wanted to have also his own develop of techniques. And when he was coming back, he was teaching us all of that. And of course, for Rojo being one of the fighters, he was feeling proud to have him as one of his best tools to show his capacities of as a teacher. So back in the day, we didn't have the internet to see different techniques like today, so everything was closed doors. We didn't share any techniques with some other schools. So if you do, you will be punished by the teacher or by, whatever. But that was how it works. And I think, Mario, and I hope to having him with us soon, because he's one of the pioneers teachers in Mexico City, one of the greatest ones too as well.
Yeah.
And he passed everything to Rojo, and Rojo was, he's pretty much, you would put it like that, he's proud fighter for the school back in the day. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So, and he prepared himself really good. He was versatile. He was adjusting himself in the ground, in the boxing, kickboxing, and also, he also was. It was another guy who we supposed to have it here, Raul Romero, who was the K1 fighter, and he was the standing off, very strong dude, like very, versatile Mexican fighter too as well. So the two of them partnership and help Israel to be a very successful fighter. It's
that must have been quite exciting, Israel. That you talked about your first introduction to BJJ being that UFC 1 tournament where Royce Gracie just submitted everyone in pretty much 30 seconds of every fight. Then to be basically fighting with one of Renzo Gracie's students and training quite soon afterwards. Was that? I guess you mentioned people have a lot of information these days, and I can go on YouTube and find 10,000 BJJ tutorials straight away. But you were learning from the best, right? You were learning from people who practiced pretty much perfect jiu-jitsu for a long time. Did that come through in your fighting?
Yeah, of course. I think there is two main things. Also, your professor that has a very good techniques, the most advanced techniques at that time. But also, we are like 20 students, and from these 20 students, I was the only one that was using the techniques for fighting. The other guys were using the technique for for enjoying, for training. For example, Jorge was using it for making exercise, for being there, But for me, it was very important to learn it because I knew I would use it in a professional fight,
But you still had, from the look of most of your fight reels, you had superior jiu-jitsu to most of your opponents, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I became fighter at the age of 31,
Yeah. But I mean, even people like that Philip Brown fight, who was, I think he was basically a jiu-jitsu practitioner himself. You still had better technique than him on the floor. Did some of that come out of that lineage, do you think, and the techniques that you were being taught there in the Gracie gym by Delgado?
By what?
You said was it Delgado, the fighter?
No entendí, Jorge.
So say it again, Simon.
Your professor in Mexico?
Oh, Mario Delgado.
Yeah, Delgado,
yeah. So basically, he was learning, the best techniques. Mario Delgado was very focused on Israel's techniques to be really polished, because one thing it was for us that we did jiu-jitsu for just to have fun, for any other guys there. But back in the day, also, it was only a few students, and these students, we were the first ones, and he wanted to also have a really good black belts to expand his brand in Mexico. And that's one of the reasons why he was always, or he's still actually until now, putting so much effort in teaching those classes. But, that's why Rojo was getting to know as one of the big submission guys in the time, right? So I want to ask.
But Jose, also another thing is, it was a kind of weird when we trained with the Mario Delgado, because he was a very good teacher, good techniques. So for me at that time, I was a guy that had a lot of doubts, and I asked him, "Hey, professor, can you help me with this position?" And he sometimes was jealous. He don't want to teach you anything more than the lesson for that day. So for me, that's kind of weird, because he knows I was representing his academy in the fights, and sometimes he helped me, sometimes I don't have time. It was kind of weird. He helped me a lot, but sometimes when I needed, he was like thinking in another thing, go home and wait for today, or
was
I fought for
was
this.
that slowing you down in terms of your development? Was that slowing you down a bit? If you had something you felt you needed to work on, and you didn't have somebody supporting you in that, was that help? Was that slowing you down a bit?
Yeah, he helped me, but sometimes I need to insist, no, please help me, and he don't want it, because I think at that time the mixed martial art fights was not his priority. So he was most interested in the tournaments, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments, instead of the fights.
Very interesting too. So that we get to hear from Israel the experience with our coach, Mario Delgado, who was, I think he was a little bit reserved in terms of like teaching the full technique, because he didn't know exactly how we react will be faithful to him or something like that. It was a little bit he put it in the perfect way. It was a little bit weird in that way, because he thought he was looking to be to have very faithful students. And back in the day, it was a lot of people were quitting, going down, and also make and I understand Mario's thinking, because or where he comes from, because back in the day too, Mexico has a little bit rough growing in the sport. We have different teachers, one from Brazil and Mario, and they were kind of like competing a little bit. They were having some rough moments and stuff like that. So at some point, he was very cautious to figure it out who will pretty much dedicate his time and pass his techniques. But at the end, I think he really helped you, in many ways. He was the coach for all of us, and I get to say, I had the opportunity to travel to the States, and when I brought the techniques that he shared with us, I think it was a good. I have a really good level. You would put it in that sense. I fight with good fighters, bad fighters, and everything, and I didn't feel that I was that bad, fighter. But anyway, I guess I'm gonna go for the next questions, my friend Simon. So I want to ask you, So I asked which one was the first fight. That means a lot. You already told me that. But what about at the end of your career, Israel? So when the last fight that you thought, man, after so many years, working your ass off in this industry, it comes the end that you are 53, I guess, or 54, I guess, I don't know, and then you decide this is gonna be my last fight. Which one was your last fight, and how you describe that fight?
Well, my last fight was at the age of 41. It was the first time I could to 135. It was very hard to go 135. So the next day I was, I think, well prepared with a guy who used to train in Renzo Gracie. He has a background of Taekwondo, and as always, I take the guy to the ground. I start punching him, make some ground pound, but he caught me in an armbar. And when I tried to escape, he finished on belly down, and I really believe I was able to escape my arm, really. But there is one second in your mind when you think, if I not escape good, the arm's gonna,
Yeah.
you're gonna be injured. And at that time, the next, I think next week, I used to go to travel to Netherlands to the diving show. So in that precisely moment, I believe if he broke my elbow, it's gonna be very difficult for me working as a diver. So I tap, and if I could, if I should have the opportunity to go back, I would really try to escape my arm, no matter if it broke my arm.
Yeah.
So this is the only thinking. So
It
when I
sounds like
was
you
in,
took the right decision, man.
yeah, when I was in Netherlands, I started waking up and going to Rome because I was going back Mexico and answer for the rematch. And after 1 week of going train, and I say, man, my body is not it's not don't need this. I prefer to rest and accept the defeat, and it's over. It's over for me.
Wow.
Understood.
So what is next for you? Are you teaching? Are you moved from Mexico City to Cancun? Now you live there in Cancun. So what is next for you? You many people probably that the new generations, they don't know much about you, or probably they find out later. But what is next for you, man? What are you doing? Are you keep teaching? Are you keep doing the sport? You are gonna be in the Mexican history as one of the fighters. You will be probably in this list of many fighters that are coming out, like Edgar Garcia, Augusto Moreno, Eric, Hector, Efraín Escudero, that was in Mexico, Rafa Garcia, Polo Reyes, and so on, so on. You can be there, Jair Rodriguez, Gabriel Benitez, Bravo, all of those guys, they are coming up, but you were, if we put it like that, you were the platform along with other guys back in the day to shine and to pass the torch to these guys, if we put it in that way, I guess. So what is next for you, and how you feel, in today's days when you train and when you teach?
Okay, before to answer, you forget one very important name, Edwin Aguilar. You remember
And
that guy?
yeah, I remember that. He passed
Yeah,
away.
he passed away. He was
Yeah.
a very tough fighter. At that time, he was one of my heroes.
He was a
And
Muslim guy, yeah. Sad story, man, but
that story, yes, a very good guy. Is very, very polite. And well, I came here to Cancun to teach Jiu Jitsu. We used to have a Gracie Barra Academy, and the owner of the hostel where I live finished the relation with the Gracie Barra, and now restarted with Mario Delgado. So we have a Mario Delgado Self Defense Academy here in Cancun. So I'm teaching. As you say, I'm trying to give my knowledge to the new guys. We don't have fighters at this moment. Only guys from 14 to 22. So I are very new guys. We have only one blue belt, and all the guys are white belts. So I'm teaching kickboxing, and I'm teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm very happy doing that. But as you say, this new generation don't know me. So when I say, look my links, I have a two foughts in Bellator. Oh, really? Oh, I can't believe it. So, it's very nice for me to pass the knowledge to these guys.
so when you see these new uh, kids coming off, as Mexican fighters, would you be able to say one day, or maybe offer them, like, be in their corner, and I think it would be great for you to pass them some sort of knowledge, like not everything is about the philosophy of call yourself down in terms of when you face rough times, but in a way that as a diver you have this good philosophy to see that difference from jiu-jitsu, right? In a way that you figure it out the way to sort of solve the puzzle and continue fighting without the jiu-jitsu knowledge of breathing and so on and so on. So I think if you pass that to the new generations, it will be great. Don't you think, Simon?
Yeah, no, I'm just interested in that. I mean, you've got a great legacy from your own career, but also I guess that connection back into the roots of mixed martial arts, into the Gracies. You're someone who was there from those early days. Do you ever see yourself maybe going back into that and coaching, trying to pass on the things that you've learned and trained?
Yes, of course. But also, another thing that is very related in the divings and the jiu-jitsu that people don't see is, for being a good diver, you need perfection. You need to do the dive one and another and another. Every day you need to train hours and hours doing the same dive. That's how you perfect the technique. So I think in my way of teaching, it's a little like a teaching diving, I teach the technique and I put the guys to repeat and repeat and repeat the technique until they have the muscle memory to do it quickly, because when you're fighting, you say, "Oh, my hand is going here," and when you're thinking what to do, you lose the position. So that's why I related the diving. Exactly, yes. That's how I related the diving with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, with the technique, and repeat all the time the technique.
That's fascinating. That's really good, man. I think you will be great on that. Nobody has it. You obviously understand that, and I think you can pass that to the new generations, and it will be cool, man. And my other question too, and I think we are about to finish this show, but you face, a young, stronger fighter in a tournament, and I hear you lost because you told me that story. How do you feel about it? Like, the body is not responding the way you want, or the way you were when you were 20 or 30, and you're still teaching. But how do you feel about that? Facing like young guys, and they are fearless, and of course they can defeat you. But can you comment a little bit about that experience?
Man, I feel frustrated, because you had the technique to escape, you had the technique to defeat, but man, the guy was very strong. So he grabbed me in a body triangle, and I was thinking, it's a wrong technique on me. So I made the counter to finish him on a leg lock. Man, the guy was not tapping. So I make the wrist lock. I push it. I think he was touching with the finger the arm, and he never tapped me. So, well, it's frustrating,
Yeah, no.
But in the end, you need to understand it's a new generation. It's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I tell Simon when I train Simon, or when we train with Simon. Like, we are old, but so we need to basically sort of like understand how we can slow down these guys, and understand that they are faster, they are better, they're stronger, and they can recover faster than us. So that's the only chance that we have.
About the only advantage I've got left is weight, but
yeah.
Also, that's why you understand why in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments they have categories for every 5 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is great. It's been really good. I think we have a problem with the streaming. I think something is happening there, but I think we passed the time. I guess we can say goodbye to everyone. It was nice having you here, Israel. We really love your career. We love what you did, and we also love that you're still teaching in Cancun. If anyone here wanted to have maybe a seminar with him, or have a personal training and you're in Cancun, you can contact him. So I guess our time is gone, Simon. It's time to say goodbye.
Well, thank you so
we have a lot of
much.
people listening to us, and people in Central America, South America, I guess, even the Caribbean, and even Spain are getting there. But this has been great. Something happened with my image here, with the video. I think we are not connected or something.
You're very ugly.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I'm not ugly. I'm the most handsome guy in the show. So look at you compared to you. Anyway, we want to say goodbye. It was a pleasure to having you here, my best friend, El Rojo Girón.
You can compare with the Mexican McGregor.
Yeah, and actually, he was compared to El Canelo. Simon.
Yeah, you're much better at jiu-jitsu than McGregor, man.
Anyway, but it was.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. Thank you both.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Appreciate it. And we lost Jorge. I don't know what happened, but I think we're gonna say goodbye. Y vamos a despedir el show. Muchísimas gracias a todos por estar con nosotros. Hemos tenido a un gran amigo, un gran peleador, Israel Girón, el Rojo, el famoso Rojo de la Ciudad de México. Pues esto ha sido Dos Fronteras. Nos despedimos. Esperemos que Jorge esté escuchándonos y pueda cortar la programación en su debido tiempo. Sino que, bueno, vamos a hacerlo debido, cortarlo nosotros mismos. Pues gracias por estar con nosotros. Y el próximo show esperemos tener a Raúl Romero o a el famoso Rodrigo King, también peleador de la Ciudad de México. Bueno, pues nos despedimos. Un saludo a todos.
Saludo, abrazo.
Nosotros. Bye.
Buenas noches, thanks, bye.
Goodbye.